So is there cause for concern in the Canadiens' crease with Carey? Is Jack Eichel a true number one center? What's going on with Ovi? All things and more. Welcome, guys, to the second episode of Shooting the Shit. I'm your host, Lansman. Over on the other side, it's my buddy Z. What's going on?
What's up, Davey? How are you, man?
It's been a long week.
Yeah, are you tired? Did you stay up to watch the game last night, or?
I did. I don't know how I did, and I don't know why I did.
I did too, though. I did. I was. You know what? When the Habs got scored on in overtime, I just sat back down on the couch and fell over. That's not true. I ranted on Twitter for a bit, and then I fell over.
Oh, that's fair. For me, I was, overtime's about to start. Wife is going to the bedroom, and she says, "Come to me when it's over." I came a minute later. She's like, "Wait, it's already done?" And that's the way it goes. Hey,
I didn't have high hopes when they got to the 3-on-3. And when I saw Danault and Armia out there, I was like, if they lose the face-off, they're losing the game. And that's what happened.
Well, we talked about
on 3-on-3. 3-on-3 is a pure. It's like those all-star skill, sessions. Like it's almost. I don't like it as a. I'm not a purist actually. That's bullshit. But it's not real hockey. It's supposed to be fun, I guess. It's similar to a shootout in terms of conceptually for a purist, but I don't know. I feel bad for the goalies. I don't know if the NHL stats consider 3-on-3 when they're totaling goalie stats at the end of the year, but they really shouldn't because it's bullshit.
Yeah, well, this week was just. We talked about it in our very first episode on Wednesday. Thanks to all, by the way, who watched it, listened, liked, subscribed. You guys are our heroes.
Thank you guys.
Cheers, seriously.
Really, thank you.
Thank you all. But, this week, they changed the coach midweek, and it was the same result. This week, we talked about it off the record at the beginning of the week. We said, okay, they're playing 4 games. They're playing 4 road games, which they had been dominating this year. They've been doing really well. And we said out of the 4, possible 8 points, you said they should get what? Like you said 4 to 5 points, 6 points?
I thought they needed 6 out of the 8. After the run they had prior, I thought 6 out of 8 keeps them basically in the hunt for second place. Yeah.
And then said they didn't win any. They went 0-2-2. They salvaged 2 points, but
2 out of 8, man, that's not good.
No, and right now,
change and potentially a goalie controversy. So they've been busy, the Habs, this week.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that. Carey Price has been the number 1 goalie in Montreal for over a decade, and it's partially in part because we have never had a solid backup who can take on leading minutes if we needed it. But this year, Marc Bergevin, Habs GM, went out and got Jake Allen, a proven winner, a proven possible number 1 who's played number 1 minutes before with St. Louis. He comes in, and although he's won the majority of his games, what's this to say to Carey? Is it a wake-up call? Mr. Saturday Night has been Carey Price for as many years, and now it's been every Saturday night. You're like, Carey, Jake Allen. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good question. We talked about it. I ranted about it on Twitter a little bit. I don't know what the answer to Carey Price is anymore. The reality is that you talk to people, and there's really 2 camps with Carey Price. One is he's done, he's over the hill. Some people thought he was never good, other than 1 or 2 years, but which is ridiculous. But he was a good goalie, and he was great. He was the best goalie in the league for, I would say, 2 years.
Yeah.
He really held on to that mantle. But he hasn't been good in recent years, And then there's the other camp that really thinks that the team has let him down. The player management, the general manager, is a big problem to some, right? The way he put the team together, the players he let go, the players he signed. And then, some people blame coaching. You mentioned the backup goaltending. So a lot of people have come up with excuses, some of them valid. I don't deny that he's played more than any other goalie over the last couple of years. So there's factual evidence there. But there's also factual evidence that he hasn't been good. Mm-hmm. it's not like he was bad last year or he was bad, 3 years ago. It's really he was good in 16-17. He had a bad spell there, and then they fired Terry and they brought in Julien. But if you look at his numbers overall in 16-17, he was still very good. He was one of the top 10 goalies in the league still. If you snapshotted that year as a whole, because he started on fire, faded away, and then finished strong, he's still probably was a fifth, top five. I think he was nominated for Vezina, but which some people didn't like, but he was easily a top five goalie still. Then he fell off a cliff, man. Like, he had a really nice run in 18-19 when the Habs finished 2 points short of the playoffs, but he hasn't been good for a while. And neither have the backups. So there is a valid question, and this is what I'm going to throw over to you right now.
Sure.
If no goalies played well, apart from Allen, and Allen really, he's played great this year, but he's played, 7 games?
I think 6 after last game.
6 or 7. Like that. That's not a big enough sample size. For all we know, Allen could struggle for the next 4 games. But really, no goalie, other than Price for the last, let's call it 40 games of the 2018-2019 season. So other than that stretch, no goalie since 2017-2018 has played well in the Habs system. So I ask you, is it the goalies or is it the system and the team?
If you'd asked me any year prior, I'd probably say it was the team, because there was like a fall down of the chemistry. One year you ship off PK, and then after that, Markov is like not offered a contract, so he has to retire. So it was like the system was crumbling. It was just rocks that were a rock that was slowly eroding and falling to the ground. I will, by the way, stand by your correction. You're right. Allen has played 8 games, but but now it just seems it's like, what is going on? What is happening between the pipes? It seems like Carey Price he has some team in front of him that is capable of winning. We brought in Edmondson, who's a cup winner. We brought in Toffoli, who's a cup winner. We brought in Corey Perry, who is a cup winner. I'm not saying that like they were the bread and butter of why. Corey Perry, you can argue he probably was a really big part for Anaheim in 2007.
Yeah.
Right now, it's like, what's their excuse?
Is that vital to a goalie, being a cup winner?
No,
it's
not vital, but it does help your confidence moving forward, especially if you have.
Brought up a good point, and it's still an extremely touchy subject when you bring up Subban versus Weber.
Mm-hmm.
Most Habs fans, and especially on Twitter, it's a guaranteed way to start a fight.
Oh yes,
which is ridiculous. I really fall in the camp of enjoying both players. I didn't like the trade when it happened simply because of the age gap.
Mm-hmm.
I nothing against Weber, and Weber's one of my favorite players. I seriously enjoy watching him play. I know he's struggled this year. I know he's getting a little long in the tooth, but he's still a player that I enjoy watching, and I still think he's a valuable player. I think any team would use Weber. Would they use him at 25 minutes a game? Maybe not, but he would be in pretty much every single team in the league's top 4. He's still a good player. He has shortcomings, but he's still a good player. So, and Subban is still a dynamic player. I know he struggled big time last year, and the Devils have been kind of up and down. They missed a bunch of games this year because of COVID-19, but I think Subban's still a good player. I think he'll prove to be a good player. I think he also has fallen off, perhaps a little bit, earlier than people thought. But he does play a kind of a demanding style. People don't realize, because he's so fast and he's quick and he's elusive, but he plays a physical style. He always has. And it probably, there's wear and tear there. So I would say that when that trade was made, the identity of the Canadiens changed. They keep talking about leadership and this and that. But I would suggest, apart from all that stuff, I would suggest that the identity of the defense changed.
Okay.
Right? Because you went from having a number 1 defenseman who was a puck mover, who was offensively driven in terms of 5-on-5. He drove play from the back end, right? He exited the zone. He drove, transition. That was Subban. That was his bread and butter.
Yep.
And then comes in Weber, who's the opposite. I mean, he's more of a stay-at-home defensively. He's a stay-at-home defenseman. Most of Weber's offense comes strictly from, power play goals, which he's one of the best of all time in terms of the blue line. And, I'm not saying he's devoid of transition and passing skills, but he's a big, slow dude, and he kind of concedes a lot of ground when people are skating in on him, but he's really good at recovering. He takes up a lot of room, and he's a good defenseman. But it changed the whole identity of the team. And I think in 16-17 they were able to maintain it because they had Markov, who was basically at that point, other than Plekanec, Price's longest serving teammate, and he was Price's longest serving defenseman. And they still had some. Petrie was there on the second pairing in 16-17. I think Jordy Ben played a lot, but they still had puck moving guys. They still Markov wasn't the fleetest of foot, but he was maybe just an extremely smart player, and he knew how to move the puck up the ice. And then it shifted after that.
Yeah, I mean, is this to say that it's probably the factor is the chemistry that they have to find the right line mates for the defense to stand in front of Carey, or
it could be. I mean, it's again, that's a good point, because again, I don't think Weber or Sherratt or even Edmondson, are inherently terrible defensemen to have in your top six. They're not. They're not, actually. They can probably play in anyone's top six. It's just you're playing essentially you're playing Sherratt and Weber together, and then you sign Edmondson to play in your top four. So now 3 out of your top 4 guys are big, slower, kind of known more as stay-at-home defensemen, and they're prone to giving up a lot of shots against because they give up the blue line. Their play is more to keep guys on the outside, but they can get beat. And the only person that you have in the top 4 who can pick up the puck and skate it out with confidence and transition the play to offense is Jeff Petrie.
Yeah.
The only one in the top 4. I mean, I was writing this down before, in 2017-2018, which was Carey Price's worst year.
Yeah.
Defense was Weber, Alzner, the infamous.
Okay. Yeah.
Jordy Ben, who I love Jordy Ben, but he was a 6th defenseman, and he was playing in the top pairing with Weber a lot. Markov had retired. Subban was gone. Weber got hurt that year too. And you were forced to play again. The identity changed. The following year, they started out with the same thing. Jordy Ben was still heavily involved. Weber was injured at the beginning of the year. And then, the following year, they brought in Sherratt, right? And Sherratt played big minutes. And again, you went from having, some puck movers to playing Weber and Sherratt together. And then this year, it's Edmondson, Sherratt, and Weber. So the identity of the defense, inherently, the players who are playing the most minutes are not puck-moving guys, other than Jeff Petrie. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but in 2018-2019, yeah. I mean,
I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. What's this coincidence?
2018-2019, when Weber came back from injury and basically everyone slotted in, that was the year that they played Victor Mete with Weber a lot. And again, I'm not big Victor Mete's biggest fan, man. He's not going to cut it. But my point is he's a smooth skating. He's very fast. He's a smooth skating defenseman. You paired him with Weber, and then on your second pairing, you had Kulak and Petrie, both good skating defensemen. And then that year they played Riley a lot as well.
Yeah.
Right? Not Morgan Riley.
Not Morgan Riley. Yeah, Mike Riley.
Yeah. So Mike Riley and Jordy Ben again was playing in the third pair, which is probably where
he is supposed to be. Absolutely.
And that was Carey Price's best stretch. He had 4 puck moving defense, 4 smooth skating defensemen in his top 6. And what did they do the next year? They missed the playoffs by 2 points. They blamed the defense. They signed Sherratt. Ben left, and they transitioned back to Sherratt, Weber. They had Petrie Kulak for a while, then they broke them up. That year, last year was a mess. They desperately tried to hang on. They traded for Scandella, then Scandella left. They played Cale Fleury. So basically, to me, the defense in the last 3 years has been Jeff Petrie and Shea Weber plus either big, slow defensemen or rookies.
Revolving door. The revolving door. And the thing is that with the management is that they always say that their one thing that they have to address is get a power forward, or they have to make get a big acquisition. Yeah, they may do that, but a lot of the times, and then they have to sign a big forward, then they don't. Or they do, and then the primary concern, the big money goes to another defenseman. And it's just I'm not saying that we're making bad acquisitions or bad signings, but it's just like it's a question of like the integrity of Bergevin is why does he not want to stay with consistency?
And I don't know. And honestly, like that's why, last episode we were talking about Julien. I mentioned how Julien, like even Rask struggled the last couple of years before Julien left the Bruins, right?
Right.
And I don't know if it was Julien's affinity for, big defensemen, or maybe it was Bergevin. Maybe it was Bergevin. He always wanted this type of defense. I don't know. But once he moved Subban for Weber, the identity of the defenseman changed. You went from having your top pair being basically during Price's best years, his top pair was Subban and Markov, two puck movers. Those are puck moving defensemen. Okay, different styles, but offensively gifted defensemen. I know Markov was more of a power play quarterback, but he was cerebral and he moved the puck up the ice quickly. He made a quick first pass, maybe the best first pass that I've ever seen. In the 35 years that I've been watching that. So, he went from that to basically Weber being in his first pair for the rest of time. After left it. And by the way, when Weber and Markov played together, they had analytically they had the best numbers in the NHL. So Markov always had that effect on his defenseman. We talk about the commissaric bump, right?
Yeah.
Markov. I just think that I'm not absolving Price. Price hasn't played well. We both agree, especially this year. He's been letting in softies. But I don't think the team's done him any favors. And if you look, like, all these backups have been bad. Like, Jake Allen's played well for 8 games. He's basically the first player, other than Price, to have more than, 2 or 3 consecutive good games in the last 4 years. Like, there's a problem there. There's an inherent problem, I think. I think it's easy to just blame Carey Price because he makes $10.5 million and people still refer to him as the best goalie of the year. He gets the best goalie in the league, and he gets voted by the players as the best goalie in the NHLPA poll every year. And it bugs the other fans, the other fans from other teams. It bugs the shit out of them because, in a way, they're right because he hasn't been good. So I don't know what the solution is, man. I don't know if it's inherently that because I like those defensemen that we named, Sherrod and Weber. I just don't think they should all be playing together, and I don't think you should be playing a defense that would be basically more suited for 1995,
along the likes of the Patrick Roy and Marty Brodeur when they were in their heyday. Yeah. So now
you always had stay-at-home defenseman back then. You basically had one offensive defenseman back then. It's
that worked. That's the system that won games for teams, and that's what brought them to the playoffs and championships. All right, I will quickly ask you this, and then I will segue to another Hab that might be on the hot seat, and then segue to another. So, next game, Tuesday night. They're playing the Ottawa Senators, again, a team that they have had struggles with all year, which sounds sad to say, but true. They've won 1 game out of 4. So, who do you start between the pipes?
Yeah, Gallen.
Okay, cool.
It's not even a question in my mind.
100% agreed.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't. I'm actually hoping that Ducharme makes some changes. He hasn't made changes the last 2 games, other than reuniting Gallagher with Tatar with Gallagher and Danault.
Yeah.
I want to see him break up Sherratt and Weber. I want to see him put a puck mover on every single pair. I want to see him, I want to see Petrie and Kulak back together because that was a very good offensive pair.
The chemistry was 100% on that line. I mean, but with that pairing. All right. Enough with Carey Price butchering. Sorry, Carey, if you're listening. I will talk about another hat that's been struggling, and that is Phillip Danault. He's one of our top 2 line center. He's got no goals this year through 20 games. He has not scored in 24. His last goal came literally just about a calendar year away. If you want to go technicality, it was a year because it was February 29th of last year.
There you go.
When he last scored. That's 24 games. Should we worry? Should the Habs fans start to worry about him? Do you think he's on the hot seat?
He should be worried.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with you, but I mean, because if I'm looking at it from this perspective, he's supposed to be our number 1 center or number 2 center. All last season during the off season, after the season ended, the play-in run and all that, there was the big controversy in who's the number 1 center, who's the second line, and Danault was saying, "I'm the number 1 center. Whereas Suzuki was saying, well, if you want me to be the number one center, I'll be the number one center. I'll take it.
Right.
But then, obviously Phillip Danault's system is he puts Phillip Danault at number one center and Suzuki at number two. Suzuki, I mean, he's got 5 goals, but he's flashy. He knows how to take the puck. He's
a smart player.
For his age, he's ridiculous. He's 21.
He's going to be a defensive centerman too. Like people are high on Suzuki for some of his offensive skills, but I think Suzuki's gonna have a long career in the NHL as like Ryan O'Reilly type. Not physical because he's smaller, and he maybe will never be as good as Patrice Bergeron. But even if he's 80% as good as Patrice Bergeron, he's going to be a very good two-way center
100%.
for 10 years. And he has offensive flair. Like he's generally a guy that I think could score 60 to 70 points a year in the NHL easily, and be a potential like perennial Selke candidate. He's that smart, and he's that his hockey IQ is that high. It's just if we're going to go back to Danault, I think Danault's problem is in the bubble. Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, they had a great 10-game run, both of them.
The two of them were our top 2 players, without a doubt.
And essentially, I don't know if you remember, but he complained about his ice time a little bit, right? Because Suzuki and Kotkaniemi were playing more than they usually would. Certainly Kotkaniemi was.
Well, right? Especially Kotkaniemi considering the circumstances.
He had a terrible second year.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And he kind of came on in the bubble. He was aggressive and he played well, I thought, And I mean, he's still a kid. Like he's still one of the youngest players in the NHL. So, and then if the rumors are true, then in the offseason, Danault turns down a 6-year, $30 million. Is that what it was? Something like that?
Yeah.
Or 5-year, $30 million? Basically, it was 5
a big contract. I remember that.
My God, that guy needs to fire his fucking agent like today. Like
bye. You are the weakest.
If that's true, he should be his agent. He should burn his agent's car, dump it in a river because he cost him money. Because there's no way in hell he's getting that contract offer again after he's played this year. No. And I don't know if it's the contract or he got in his head about it. He thought he was maybe more. And he's a good player, and they need him, right?
Well, you were saying Suzuki is in the category of Patrice Bergeron to beat. Patrice Bergeron is one of the Selke. I lost track of time.
I'd say Patrice Bergeron light. I don't want to put the pressure on the kid to say he's going to be Patrice Bergeron, but Patrice Bergeron light, which is still a phenomenal hockey player in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just something to say because, I'm going to segue this now. He has no goals, like I said, in 20 games. If you go to Buffalo, arguably, probably, despite the numbers, the worst team in the league. The Buffalo Sabres have recently been playing a system where they've been scratching their top players. And they don't hold back. Ralph Kruger, the head coach, who is a proven winner also with Team Canada at the national level, he's benched Eichel. He's benched Skinner. They're
numbers.
Yeah.
Wait, Ralph Kruger, who is he? What has he done?
Well, if you must ask, let me pull up his.
Look him up because honestly, I looked him up briefly after the Eichel and Skinner benching, and I was like, this guy flamed out with the Oilers. That's what I remember him from. All right, and then he started making these fancy interviews when I think he was coaching Switzerland, right?
Yeah, he was coaching Switzerland. That's correct.
Yeah, and he's an intelligent guy. He's fairly charming. And he's been terrible in Buffalo, and I just we're ragging on Julien, who has freaking 600 wins and a Stanley Cup. And what the fuck has this guy done?
Yeah, well, right. Okay, here. So you want to know about Kruger? This guy, he prior to last year had coached. We're gonna go way back, 2012, 2013. He was the head coach in the lockout shortened season for the Oilers.
Yeah, he sucked.
Yeah, well, listen, they had 19 wins in 48 games. They missed the playoffs, but that's about his extent of his coaching career at the NHL level. But he's been bold. That's bold to take your number one center, who also, by the way, up until before yesterday's games, had 14 points in 16 games.
No, they're
not all-star numbers, but they are almost a point a game.
Eichel's one of the best. Eichel's a top 10 center in the NHL. Maybe higher if you can get the kid motivated. But I don't blame him.
But then that's the thing is, so what does that send a message to, like, say to now Donald Duchamp and say, wake up? Maybe you want to consider giving him a wake up call as well, or is that a little too early, too premature?
Well, look, here's the thing. Buffalo's been really bad, and they've
Yeah,
been bad for a while. The Eichel situation reminds me a lot of, I don't know how much of a big NFL fan you are, but Deshaun Watson in the Houston Texans.
yeah,
Like, he's a great young quarterback. He got a fat contract, same as Eichel. Eichel is a great young player, got a fat contract, $10 million a year, and the team desperately tried to improve, and instead they didn't. And now Deshaun Watson wants out, and it's a matter of time before Eichel wants out.
yeah.
And I think it's too late now for Buffalo. Like, I don't think they can fire Kruger and bring in a coach, or, like the Skinner contract. Like, that one was bad when they gave it. Like, that was a head scratcher.
9 million a year. He's
Yeah, and
got
I mean,
one assist.
Skinner is a good player. I know he had some 40-goal seasons, but he was inconsistent. That's what bothers me about these things. Same thing with Carey Price. Like, if you gave Carey Price that contract when he was coming off his 2011, 2012 season, you gave him a $10 million contract then when he was, I don't know, 24 or whatever. You said, here's $10 million, you're my highest paid goalie. You would kind of understand it because, like, he went on a tear after that, right? Because he's still young. I think 12, 13, he sucked, and then he was great. I don't understand. Like, I know, listen, you got to pay a player for what he's accomplished. But after a certain age, as a general manager, you got to look at it and be like, this guy's like, Father Time is undefeated, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Not everyone is Dominic Hasek. Not everyone is Chris Chelios or Gordie Howe. Like, you can't play until you're 40, whatever.
Yeah.
You got to be smart with these contracts. Buffalo, Eichel's done, and I think Buffalo's cooked too. Like, so to relate it to Danault, I don't think you can bench Danault because who are you going to play?
Yeah, true.
So far, they haven't. Neither Ducharme nor Julien. Julien Prior, and maybe Ducharme will change. Like, I'm not ready to let the boat sail on Ducharme.
No.
I don't think he's even had an opportunity to make any chance. He's been on the road, took over the team on the road. I think they've had one practice. Like,
One practice, 2 games, correct?
so he's gonna have to eventually make changes. One of them is, I hope he gives Kotkaniemi more minutes. Look, Danault, even Habs fans who saw what a good 5-on-5 player he had been with Tatar and Gallagher over the last 2 years, most fans knew he was basically on a Stanley Cup contending team. He was a 3C, and a good 3C at that.
Right.
He was never meant to be a 1C. His skill set doesn't translate to 1C. Look at the 1Cs in the North.
Yeah.
Dave, Scheifele, Peterson, even Batherson. Kid's been on a tear.
Well, let's talk about Ottawa. I mean, like, although they are dead last in the North Division, they're 7 wins, 7-15-1.
Fun team, man.
They're hot. I mean, that's the thing, is, like, they have only 7 wins, but their rookies are tearing it up. Like you mentioned, Batherson, ridiculous. 7 goals.
Well, that's the thing, like, people talk about Tkachuk and Shabbat because they're flashy names, right? Shabbat's a great offensive defenseman, and Tkachuk, he sucks the air out of every room because he's a big personality.
Yep.
He's basically, he reminds me exactly of Corey Perry in his heyday.
Oh yeah, you can see that even physically.
Yeah, just the way they play the game. They're basically Corey Perry. Like, but Batherson, man, that kid's good.
Yeah, and I mean, also they're 2 rookies. And Josh
Morris, kid's good.
These guys are wow.
They're going to be good. And the thing about Ottawa is, I picked them to finish last. Everyone did.
Yep, we all did.
I still think they will, although the Canucks are absolutely terrible. So you never know. But I knew that they would get better as the year went on because they're a young team, and young teams get better usually because they grow up together. Like, look at the chemistry between Batherson and Tkachuk and Stützle and Tkachuk. Like, we've seen it. We saw it in the Habs in the early teens when the Habs had Price and Gallagher and Pacioretty and Subban. Like, that core, you saw them grow up together. There's an inherent chemistry there. Like, I'm an analytics guy, but I do not overlook chemistry and the intangibles of a team. They're not. Anyone who's played sports knows that you play harder in a team that you enjoy playing with, teammates you love playing with, coaches you like playing for. Anyone who's played knows it it pushes your effort level, and your effort level then translated to analytics because your performance is better. So there's a massive symbiotic relationship that occurs. And Ottawa's going to be good, man. They're a tough out. They've given every problems. By the way, not just the Habs. Like they lost to Toronto. There was one game they lost to Toronto. They outplayed Toronto.
But they also destroyed Calgary the other night, 6-1.
They destroyed Calgary. I mean,
like
beginning of the year, like a lot of these kids hadn't played together yet. Of course, they were getting torched. And Matt Murray, he's the type of goalie that runs hot and cold. And when he's hot, he's good.
You know? Absolutely. I mean, like you said about the whole chemistry, when you're on a team that you want, when you're at a job, when you come to work every day and you're with the people you want to be, the sky's the limit. You will do so well. I mean, you look at the top lines and all across the league. McDavid and Draisaitl, they love playing together because they have good chemistry. They work, and you continue it on. Talking about chemistry, actually, we'll lean into my next subject. The Ovi watch, Alex Ovechkin.
Ovi watch. What are we at?
2021.
What are we at?
Well, right now, this year, he's only got 7 goals. You know, I mean,
okay. He needs 8. Is it 804?
894 is the record by Gretzky.
894?
894. So right now he has 713. He has 713. 713.
Yeah.
He has 713. Yeah.
I mean, I just mentioned, Father Time's undefeated, man. I don't know if he gets it.
Well, you know what's interesting about it though is that when I was thinking about this before this afternoon's game for Washington, that throughout the game, the 15 games he had played, he only had 6 goals. It sounds funny to say only 6 goals for a guy like Ovechkin.
Yeah.
But that's like actually really low numbers. I did some stats. I mean, you know, in 2016, 2017, he tied TJ Oshie with goals. And then the last time he was not the leader or co-leader in team goals was in 2003, 2004.
Wait, didn't he join the league in 2005? No, that's a lockout.
He was drafted in June 2004. He has never led the team in goals.
So he's never not led the team.
No. The last time that another person, aside from a guy named Alexander Ovechkin, led the Washington Capitals in goals was 2003, 2004, when former Hab Robert Lang had 29.
Robert Lang.
Yeah. Checkmate.
Man.
Yeah.
Shit, I forgot he played for the Habs.
But that's how good he is, though. That's how good he is.
Yeah, like, I mean, listen, he's the greatest. Like, I know he might not catch Gretzky, but if you adjust for era and just a goal, if you try to imagine goal scoring as a skill, a single skill, to me he's the best goal scorer in NHL history.
100%, and he's flashy too. He knows.
His goals are incredible.
I will say, let's go back to that Phoenix goal back in January 2006.
Yeah. But you know, one of the greatest goals of all time. And Gretzky was on the opposing team's bench.
Yep, he was coach. He was coach.
Yeah.
And that was only in his, I think, second year. I mean.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, man. That year, the second year or the third year where he scored 65 goals.
Yeah.
That might be the greatest goal scoring season of all time. If you think about it for era, just like, listen, Gretzky put up 92 goals one year or something crazy.
Yes. 92, and his other one
had 70 goals. Bernie Nichols had 70 goals. Phil Esposito's done 70. You know, the Rocket did 50 and 50. But 65 in that era, you know, that's just as impressive as those seasons, man.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think Stamkos had 60, but has anyone even touched 60 since?
No. And also, like,
no one's going to touch 65 either.
No.
Maybe Matthews is unbelievable goal scorer too, but I don't know, man. 65 in an 82 game season. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, like you touched on Gretzky getting 92 goals in the season. I mean, yes, he did get 92 goals. It will be a record that will probably never be broken. But also back then, the pads were as flimsy as this paper. They were paper thin. They were the tiniest thing. They basically covered your leg.
Yeah. The evolution of goaltending is the biggest development in terms of goal scoring decrease of the last 30 to 40 years. I mean, if you look at goaltending in the 70s and the 80s and then how it progressed through the 90s into the 2000s into the 2010s, now what it is, I feel like now it got to the point where it got so good that they had to handicap goalies, and they also, like, the whole strategy changed around goaltending. they were like, oh, we got to shrink their equipment. And then teams were like, shit, we can't afford to waste spots on Donald Brashear and those type of players. We need guys who can score because we don't even have that many opportunities to score on these goalies. So the league's changed, man, and now you can see goalies like it peaked, like the 2015 peak there, that Carey Price year. Ever since then, save percentages have dropped, right? I think I mentioned that on the last one, and and goal scoring has gone back up.
Yeah, and Ovechkin. I mean, like, it's funny to see him not doing so well. I mean, I wish him the best because I think.
But you never know with
one of my
Ovi.
favorite players to watch, hands
He's
down.
amazing.
I mean, he's right there.
Yeah. You never know with Ovi, man. For all we know, he could score 7 goals in his next 5 games.
Like 7 goals in the next game. God, it's I mean, the record goals in a game was how much? Was 8? I think 8 goals in a game was the record.
The record in a single NHL game. I'd no way it's 8. I think it's 8 points, man.
No, the points that I know is Daryl Sittler. That I know.
Oh, Sittler's got 10 goals. There's no way. There's no way it's 8. Maybe 6. All right.
Joe Malone.
No, forget Joe Malone. I want a more modern record.
Oh, well then, I guess.
And if it's 8, I'll buy you a beer whenever bars reopen.
Oh boy, that's a lot of pressure.
And if it's not, you got to buy me a 6-pack.
Okay. It's a fair deal.
Yes.
So, in the modern era, what do we consider modern era?
Give me something at least in the last 40 years.
Last 40 years. Oh well, then yeah, okay.
It's got to be. Didn't Lemieux
6-pack?
5?
Pardon? Yeah, 5 has been done. 5 was done.
Lemieux, right?
No, 5 has been done more recently than Lemieux. 5 has been done. Here, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm just looking at these stats. 5 was done a few years ago. Like, who was it? 5.
It's gonna be some rando.
Oh no! Like, I mean, there's a league company.
Zeller had 4 in a game.
But apparently it's not there. But I mean, I could have sworn Johan Franzen had 5 goals in a game.
Maybe.
But anyways, we will segue with one last topic just to touch up the Minnesota Wild. You had mentioned we were talking about it beforehand.
Rookie of the year, baby, Kaprizov.
Yeah, well, putting up amazing numbers because of the fact that, like, I mean, right now he's got a healthy line on him. He's got Matt Zuccarello who's tearing it up. You were talking
Zuccarello, man. I always loved Zuccarello on the Rangers, and you know what? I got nothing but love for Minnesota, the Minnesota Wild, and just I know a couple people from Minnesota. They're fucking nice people, man. I don't have anything against Minnesota, and the Wild have always been a team that, like obviously, if you grew up in our generation, you had an affinity for Saku Koivu because of the type of player he was and just what he went through with his cancer and his recovery. And I always, just by proxy, I like Mikko Koivu, right? Like it just.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And by the way, you laugh at that, but I don't want to keep going on a tangent. We've been talking for an hour, but I think the best case for Kotkaniemi at this point, I feel, is actually become Mikko Koivu, which, by the way, would be great. Mikko Koivu was a very good player. He was a 50, 60-point player. I think he might have had 70 points even one year, and he was great. He was a good face-off player. He played huge minutes, and he anchored some good lines, and he was a good player. But yeah, the Wild, man, they've been a great story.
Absolutely, and they are year after year. I mean, I would think Zuccarello is one of the underrated players of the league. He's a kid who's not big. He is actually probably, aside from Johnny Gaudreau and Nathan Gerbe, he's probably one of the smallest people in the NHL. And he always finds top 6 minutes, and he also happens to be successful wherever he goes. He played for the Rangers. They were successful. He played for Dallas. They were successful with him in the lineup. So, I mean, I don't know. He's also a fun guy. I mean, I've seen some documentaries on him before in the past. He's a guy who's like, I remember when he was traded out of the Rangers. I don't know if you saw the video. When he was traded to the Rangers, there was a video of, they do the teammates and they say, like, how do you feel your teammates left? And Lundqvist was in tears.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows. We're talking like Gretzky getting traded out of Edmonton level. He wasn't just like, oh, it's the business. No, he was like, I lost my best friend.
No, it's his buddy, man. Yeah. It's a great story. And like, just also Matt Dumba, the way he's spoken out against racism and for equality and the whole BLM movement. And it just seems like those are good guys. It's a good fan base. It's a hockey town. I'm happy for them, man. I hope they keep it up.
Me too. It's the state of hockey, Minnesota.
And by the way,
The Canada of the U.S.
By the way, it is 6 goals. It was Daryl Sittler where he scored 10.
Yes, I know. February 27, 1976.
And you're right. A bunch of people have done 5, including Gretzky a bunch of times. But we'll go with 6. 6 for Sittler is what I'll. You're right. There is a bunch of old timers though.
I do still owe you a beer, a 6-pack. So I mean,
it's okay. It's all right.
Next time I see you. Anyways, guys.
Whenever that happens.
Yeah, we'll count the days. On that note, guys, I want to thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. From myself, Landsman, Z, who's finishing his scotch, we'd like to thank you all for listening. Make sure you
thank you, everybody. This was a lot of fun as usual, baby.
You know what, Z, it's a pleasure. This is a lot of fun. We're having fun doing this, and we really hope you guys are having fun with us too. So don't forget, you can catch us on Twitter. What's our handle, Davey? Shooting the SHT, because we can't swear, we can't say shit. Shooting the SHT1. You can find us there on Twitter.
There you go. I'm also at Habs Beard.
Yeah, I'm at.
You guys want to look me up?
And I'm at MTL at the rink, all one word, lowercase. So guys, you know what? This has been a lot of fun. Stay tuned for more episodes of Shooting the Shit.